This is NBC6 Breaking News.
We're following breaking news right now on NBC6. Take a look at these live dramatic pictures that are coming in right now from Chopper 6. This appears to be someone being rescued off the waters, off the coast of South Florida. Just a few minutes ago, the Coast Guard issued a warning saying that they are heading out for a small plane that went off 13 miles off the coast of Bay Harbor Islands. That's near Surfside, and this is the live dramatic scene that's taking place right now. We're told it's a Cessna that went down there in those choppy waters off the coast of South Florida. We do not know what kind of exact make or model the plane was, how many people are on board, or where that plane was headed, but someone was just lifted up there into that U.S. Coast Guard chopper just a few minutes ago. This is the scene. You're seeing it play out as we are here in the NBC6 studios, and there appears to be someone right there in the water on that life raft. We heard police chatter on the scanners, the police scanners, saying that 2 people were in that life raft. It appears one of those people on the raft were just lifted up into the U.S. Coast Guard helicopter. We know the Miami Fire Rescue is responding to the scene along with the Miami Police Department. This all taking place right now here live on NBC6. The U.S. Coast Guard saying that they just rushed to this scene approximately 13 miles off the coast of Bay Harbor Islands for a small Cessna that went down in the waters off the coast of South Florida. That U.S. Coast Guard chopper, they're hovering in the air above this scene. We have not seen any remnants of that airplane in the water yet. We're waiting for Chopper 6 here to change its views so we can see exactly what's going on in the bigger picture that's playing out right now at 1:45 this afternoon. The U.S. Coast Guard appearing to be trying to rescue that other person on that yellow raft that's right now hovering in the Atlantic. We do not know where this plane took off from or where this plane was heading. We do not know the make or model or how many people were on board or who was piloting this small Cessna. Those details should be released here within the next few minutes, but the main focus right now is rescuing whoever is left there in the water. The U.S. Coast Guard saying that Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, Miami Police, and Coast Guard officials are all heading to this scene. So once they take this person or people out of the water, they're going to be heading to an ambulance and rush to the hospital to be checked out for any injuries. This chopper right now seems to be leaving the area. They may have both of the people on board. We're going to watch with you to see where this helicopter is heading. This scene again playing off approximately 13 miles off the coast of Bay Harbor Islands, according to the Coast Guard. They say they're not releasing any more information right now. They sent out a tweet just a few minutes ago saying that the plane went down 13 miles east of Bay Harbor. We do not know if that life raft, that yellow raft we saw in the water, if it had drifted, but that is where this is playing out. The chopper, as you can see, rushing right now to land, to get whoever's inside that chopper to the ground, to paramedics to be rushed to the hospital, be checked out for any possible injuries. We're going to stay with you here to see where this chopper is headed and to see if there is another Coast Guard helicopter there on the water for any other possible survivors. And still no visual images yet of that Cessna that went down. We do not know if it's floating in the water, if it went below the surface, where it took off from, or where that Cessna was heading. This is a common scene we have seen play out here in South Florida over the past few months. We have had a number of small aircrafts down in our area that we have covered. Similar scenes to this, but rarely do we see these live dramatic pictures of a rescue taking place. There we have it, what appears to be a wing of that small Cessna in the water. This does not look good. This appears to be the right or left wing of that Cessna floating in the choppy waters of the Atlantic. We have not seen the actual engine or main body parts of this plane yet. We do know right now, we have just confirmed that one person was rescued. When we first joined you, we saw someone get lifted up into that helicopter. One person was rescued. There could be more people out there in the waters right now. When we first came to you live, Chopper 6 showed us a visual image of a yellow raft hovering in the water. There may have been another person in that raft that they're coming forward to rescue. We can see wheels there in the water. That's a portion of the aircraft. That's a large chunk of this aircraft. And Chopper 6 right now zooming out, and it doesn't appear to be any other pieces of the aircraft in that general area. We're hearing unconfirmed reports that 2 people were inside that plane. 1 person was rescued, 1 person still in the water. Again, this is unconfirmed reports that we're hearing from police on the scene talking about this rescue. And there is a portion of that Cessna aircraft hovering in the waters of the Atlantic, about 13 miles off the coast of Bay Harbor Island. This all taking place within just the last 10 minutes. The U.S. Coast Guard notifying us that they were heading to this scene 13 miles off the coast of Bay Harbor Island. If you're not familiar with South Florida, that's just near Surfside. And let's zoom in here right now. This appears to be a yellow life raft from the airplane. And I don't see anyone else inside that aircraft, inside that inflatable life raft. That life raft, at least a few hundred feet away from the piece of the airplane that's floating right now in the water. We know that police officials and fire rescue are rushing to the scene as close as they can to the water, so when that helicopter reaches down, they can put the person in the ambulance and rush them to the hospital. Chopper 6 is zooming in what appears to be, this just looks to be the Atlantic. Those and here is a small airplane hovering over the area, possibly looking for survivors or debris. On the right side of the screen there, this is video that we first showed you live. This is taped video of 1 person getting rescued from the waters of the Atlantic and taken up inside the U.S. Coast Guard chopper. And on the left side of the screen, live pictures of a Coast Guard vessel rushing to this area to check for survivors. You have 2 scenes playing out here right now. The left side of your screen, live pictures of a boat rushing to this area 13 miles off the coast of the Atlantic. On the right side, you're seeing taped video of the rescue that happened here about 10 to 15 minutes ago that we brought to you live. Chopper 6 is now changing its vantage point. They appear to be looking for other pieces of the airplane or other survivors that may have been on board that vessel. Live pictures on the left side of the screen, taped images on the right. Let's go out live right now on the phone to Willard Shepard. He is an expert on issues like this. Willard, what have you heard so far about what happened here and what's taking place?
Well, right now, and they're really just in the rescue mode to try to get out there to get anyone else that was in the aircraft. You know, they're already, you know for sure that they're looking for 1 other person. The Coast Guard already making 1 rescue. Pretty much all of the available resources, not just from the Coast Guard, but from any of the Marine Patrol units, Miami-Dade County, Miami Beach, Key Biscayne, they have all deployed their Marine Patrol units out to this area once the word started coming in that this plane had gone down out there in the water, 10 to 12 miles, I'm told, off the shoreline. And that's what the focus is right now. I don't have the information yet. Just talked to the air traffic control people a short time ago as to where this aircraft was headed and where it was coming from at this particular point when it went down out there in the water. When you're going down in a situation like that out in the water, obviously it's much better to be able to put the airplane, if it's got an emergency, down dry land, or even we've seen people land on the beach at times. So going down in the water and ditching an aircraft is what we call a last resort maneuver, but at least enough of the airplane was intact for 1 individual to get out, and the authorities are out there now trying to find the other. So they were able to at least withstand the impact down into the water.
1 person getting rescued. Give us an idea of how difficult this is for Coast Guard crews. This is 13 miles off the coast of Bay Harbor Islands and Surfside and Aventura area. How hard is it for them to get out there by vessel and also by air?
Well, 2 things. First of all, the helicopters would have been deployed immediately. Those are located at the Coast Guard Station, Miami, which is at Opa-locka at the airport there in Miami. So they could get out there in just a handful of minutes. As far as the actual sea assets, the vessels that have been sent, they're right there on Miami Beach, right when you come over at the end of Government Cut there. So they would have started moving northbound, but the helicopters would have gotten there first, been able to establish if they saw someone in the water, which they did. And I'm actually seeing one of the helicopters, Dan, right now from my vantage point near I-95, headed back toward the Coast Guard station. Can't tell you, obviously, if one of the people who was on that aircraft was on there, but that aircraft is headed back to the Coast Guard station at Opelika.
Willard, we believe that chopper did have one of the people rescued from the waters. As the search continues, any idea what happens with that person that has been rescued? Are they rushed to the U.S. Coast Guard base and then rushed to the hospital? What happens next with the one survivor of this plane crash? At least one survivor.
Okay, well, obviously, depending on what their injuries are, they're going to get them medical care immediately. The Coast Guard can do some of that there at the Coast Guard Air Station because they're clearly outfitted there for flying physicals, all those kinds of things at that particular location, and have the aviation medical expertise to do it there. And then the person would be transported over to a local hospital, depending on exactly what their injuries are. But the main focus also right now is we're actually back out at sea to try to see who else may be in that aircraft and get out of that aircraft so that they can save that life.
Willard, I don't think you can see these live images right now, but live on your screen right now, we are seeing a Coast Guard vessel rushing to the scene of this crash. They're starting to pull up right now and arrive to the scene of the wreckage, where we're seeing a piece of what appears to be the wing of the Cessna in the Atlantic. And the vessel is starting to approach this area. So far, we've only seen one chunk of that small Cessna that went down. We don't know the exact make or model or the exact number of people that were on board. We do know that at least one person has been rescued, and they could be searching for other survivors. We're hearing unconfirmed reports that at least 2 people were on board. I'm being joined now with Sasha Jones. Sasha, have you learned anything over the past few minutes?
So far, no. Just what we know so far. For anyone who's just now joining us, as you see, the U.S. Coast Guard, Miami-Dade Fire, Miami Fire, all responding to this plane crash here in the water. As we know, the U.S. Coast Guard headed out there. This supposedly took place about 13 miles east of Bay Harbor Island. Right now, we don't have any further information. But Willard, if you're still out there, you know, what takes place next? You know, now that they've been able to get the one person off of that watercraft, what takes place next?
Well, they're going to have the Coast Guard that has arrived there. They drill a lot for this type of emergency. They have people on board who will be able to actually get in the water and look to see what they might be able to find. I will say that since this aircraft was so far off the shoreline, that the pilot and the passenger in the aircraft, if not even more people that were in there, everyone should have had a life vest. There should have been a life raft in that particular aircraft that would aid in this type of emergency.
Thank you so much, Willard Shepard. Again, this live coverage continuing right now here on NBC6 app and NBC6.com. A search and recovery mission taking place off the coast of the Atlantic. Stay with NBC6 News for the latest. Have a great afternoon.